Hi, I'm Perez. This is video assignment number 2, plyometric training. So, we're going to start with a general warm-up of marching. Marching is a good, I would believe, warm-up for it mimics the running movements, emphasizing posture and movement technique, which should transfer over and enhance the proper lower body movements for running. I chose this one because we're going to be doing a lot of sprinting activities, drills, bounds, so a lot of things that mimic the running posture. So we'll be doing 5 minutes of marching, um, really just trying to stand erect and yeah. Oh, I should also add that with the running technique, really want to keep your or really emphasize keeping your knees, getting them as high as possible, and also with the hand movement, um, getting close to your cheeks. So you want to really emphasize full range of motion here as I tried to emulate maintaining high knees and also having full unilateral direction towards the cheeks. 5 minutes of this. So after marching, we're going to go ahead and move on to the inchworm. And with the inchworm, what we're mainly going to be trying to focus on is standing erect with the feet placed shoulder width apart. And as I slightly flex the knees, and you're going to bend forward the waist and place the hands shoulder width apart, flat on the floor, and kind of like how I'm inching my way in there. You should have the weight of the body shifted back, not directly over the hands, and try to have the buttocks as high as possible. I mean, the more flexible you are, the easier it's going to be for you, but for me, I'm not that flexible, so this movement was pretty challenging for me. But you're also going to move your hands alternately forward, and with those short steps with the hands, move it out. But I chose to do with my feet instead of the hands. Um, it was just more comfortable for me like that. It is a variation of it, but we're essentially doing the same thing. So yeah, and the main muscles affected here would be your erector spinae, your gastrocnemius, your gluteus maximus, hamstring, soleus, and your anterior tibialis. So that's the inchworm. I'm just doing it for a duration of a minute 30. No rep scheme that we're following here, doing as many reps as you can. Kind of have like a 5-second, 10-second hold where you feel the most stretch in any of these movements. But yeah, doing that for a minute 30. So after we finish with the inchworm, we're going to do another minute 30 of lunge with overhead side reach. Here you're standing erect with your feet parallel to each other and shoulder width apart. You're taking an exaggerated step directly forward with the left leg, planting the left foot flat on the floor, pointing straight ahead. I'm alternating here already, but just making sure that your knee is over your foot. You're slowly flexing, keeping the left knee directly over the left foot. You want to keep um, if you're having your left foot planted, the right foot or the right knee 1 to 2 inches above the floor. They shouldn't be touching the floor. Um, and you're just gonna use your hamstring as the mechanism to put yourself back forward. Um, so if you just keep those points in mind, you'll be doing this movement correctly. Um, I do tend to lose balance during this. Um, but yeah, just try not to jeopardize the main mechanics of the movement too much. Doing a minute 30 here, uh, and yeah. I should add that the muscles affected here are your gluteus maximus, hamstrings, iliopsoas, latissimus dorsi, internal external oblique, and your rectus femoris. So after completing that exercise, we're going to be moving on to walking knee lifts. And this, we're just standing erect, feet parallel to each other and shoulder width apart. Your step forward with whichever knee you want to flex. You're going to grab the front of the right knee, if you're using the right or left knee, and use the arms to pull the right knee up further to squeeze the thigh against the chest. So I'm squeezing it up further to my chest. And you're keeping your torso erect, and you want to pause during each of the movements so that you can get that strain. You can really feel the muscle stretch. I was holding it for like maybe 3 seconds, but um, they they want you to be moving throughout the movements, but I didn't have too much area to move along with. But if you do have an area and it's flat, where you can keep that standard position, then you can go ahead and opt for that. But I'm stationary here, but we're doing the same. We're targeting the same muscles, which are going to be your gluteus maximus and hamstrings. And that will conclude the warm-up segment of the plyometric training. So after completing the warm-up segment, we're going to move on to resisted sprints. For the first exercise, it's going to be the weighted sprints. I kind of go straight into it, but I have a white water bottle that you can see on the screen here. That's gonna mark the 20-meter distance that we'll be completing for each run. I'm doing intervals of 10 to 15 seconds of rest between each working set. But we're gonna be wearing a weighted vest, and that's gonna add resistance, increase the overall load on the muscles, which should transfer to enhancing strength and power development. So yeah, the first variation is gonna be straight line sprint. This is just gonna focus on improving pure speed and acceleration. Um, yeah. So just after finishing the first variation, we're gonna go on to the second variation, which is gonna be a backward sprint, backward reverse sprint. This is gonna challenge different muscle groups rather than the forward sprinting, which should help in improving coordination, balance, and backward running speed. Uh, but we're also gonna have the weighted vest on continuously for this as well. Hopefully um, the exercise environment is more open, so you don't have to worry about hitting obstacles or it's an uneven ground. Um, Unfortunately, this is the best that I had. But yeah, we're doing 10-15 seconds resting here, a minute 30 per exercise, and that's the running reverse sprint. So the last variation of sprint exercises is just gonna be the easiest variation, which will just be reducing the overall load on the weighted vest. Um, Backward reverse sprint would definitely be the hardest variation of this exercise. Well, for me, it was because it's recruiting a whole different aspect of sprinting. Here, we're just gonna be doing the same straight line sprint, less weight, less resistance, but still an added resistance, adding on to your original body weight. We're following the same scheme here, 10 to 15-second rest between each sprint. Really trying to get that maximal effort in. And so moving on to the next exercise, for resisted sprints will be sprinting with resistant bands. Here I'm gonna elect to put it on my waist. You could put it on the ankles, but um, one the resistant bands that I had were just not flexible enough that it would be, I would consider it safe to do sprinting within the ankles, but using it on the waist is also effective, um, because it's going to just provide constant tension, and it's going to challenge the muscles throughout the sprint rather than having a load directly placed above you. It's going to have it affecting the muscles uh, acutely. And here, with the resistant bands, I'm doing a normal variation. The first variation is just normal sprints. And we're doing minute 30, 10 to 15-second rest periods as well. So an easier variation of the resistant band sprints is an altered technique. So this could transfer over to just reducing the frequency of the strides or the length of the strides. I opted to do the frequency of the strides, so I'm lowering the amount of strides I'm hitting per sprint, and really just trying to emulate proper sprint technique, um, but just reducing the frequency of the strides. And this will definitely be an easier variation for this exercise. Then the last exercise variation for this exercise will be just to make it harder, would just to increase the distance. So from 20 meters, I moved it over to 30 meters, still maintaining the resistance bands around the waist. Um, yeah. So now we're going to go on to quickness reaction drills using a tennis ball. Um, Here, there's going to be three variations: an underhand toss, um, uh, a stronger underhand toss for a harder variation, and an easier variation being a bounce toss onto the wall. But here is the standard variation for this exercise modality, training reaction, and it's just underhand toss into the wall. You can alternate your hands. So instead of using my dominant hand for the majority of this exercise, I'll be using my undominant hand to throw the ball into the wall, and also you can add variation into which hand you want to catch it. You can use your right, you can use your left, whatever you really want to work on. Here I'm just maintaining that same, but now I'm going to change it, and you'll see that it will definitely be tougher using your non-dominant hand to do these exercises. That's going to be the first standard variation, underhand toss, normal speed. Um, The second variation of this will be a stronger toss onto the wall. As you can see, it definitely adds a difficulty level to this. Um, Also, you can like set a mental note on where you're catching the ball. Um, if you want to catch it later on during the flight phase, then you can, or shorter into the flight phase, you can. Um, yeah, this is underhand toss at an increased speed, harder variation. Then the easiest variation of this exercise will be bouncing the ball onto the wall. You're going to dramatically reduce the speed of which the ball comes back to you. I'm going to end up doing the same movement, but with my less dominant hand, and you'll see that it'll be pretty challenging, even though it's coming so slow because the coordination just isn't there yet. But it will eventually. Um, So after the bouncing the ball technique, we're gonna be doing tennis. Oh, alternate leg bounds using a tennis ball. So I'm trying to mimic a full stride here. Typically, you'd want to cover as much distance when you're doing bounds. Here, I just don't have enough camera space to uh, faithfully record that properly. So I'm just going to do them standing in place, but really trying to mimic a long stride that are typical with regular bounds. Um, but here we're just using a tennis ball, and at the height of one of my bounds, that's when I'll throw the ball up and I'll try to catch it with the alternate hand, just adding that reactive element to it, coordination element to it, and that's alternating leg tennis bounds, the standard variation for this exercise. Another variation to tennis ball bounce is um, a reverse or 180-degree turn introduced into the tennis ball bounce. And so we're doing the same movement, same running technique. And at the height of one of these bounds, you're going to explosively turn 180 degrees, really trying to pivot your pelvis, um, pivot the knees. You want it to be a strong, aggressive movement, um, and always maintaining proper foot posture, planted on the floor, but ready to explosively turn. And also, if you see my hand movement, I'm really using everything, trying to rotate my body quickly and effectively. And we're going on to the I would consider the easiest variation, which will be the same bound movement but diagonal. So we're standing, we're doing the same movement. Oh, well, we're gonna be moving on to diagonal tennis ball bounds. So with diagonal tennis ball bounce, same movement as the previous bounce, but we're just pitching the ball diagonally. So we kind of have to do a quick shuttle to get to that ball. Um, I would consider this the easiest variation for this exercise. So for the exercise modality, lower body plyometrics, we're going to be doing alternate leg push-offs. And with alternate leg push-offs, I'm using the concrete of my patio as the plyometric box. And I'm starting here at the shortest height, which is around 6 inches. As I move further to my left, the height will be increased just naturally as the concrete uh, is at a higher point, um, and at my on my patio. But we're doing 6 inches here, and with alternate leg push-offs, you want to have your heel closer to the box. It shouldn't be sticking out as much as mine does in this scenario, although some steps are better than others. But you really want to consistently have the heel of your foot at the on the box, and just have that firm, stable movement. Uh, so that was the 6 inch plyometric box. Um, but yeah, you want to have your heel on the foot of the box. The upper movement is jumping up using the foot of the box to push off. So let's say you have your left foot on the box, your right foot planted firmly on the ground. You want to push off the box using that left foot, and you're gonna land with the opposite foot on the box. So if you push off with your left foot, you're gonna land with your right foot, and then as your right foot is landing, you want to immediately repeat the movement, reversing the foot for each repetition, having that explosive element in the movement, really targeting that plyometric training. To increase intensity of this, we're gonna, like as I said, we're gonna be increasing the height of the box that we're jumping off of. That'll allow the that will allow for the downward movement of this phase to have more shock absorption, so that when you explode back up, there's more intensity to doing that. Um, but those are going to be the three variations. Easiest variation will be the 6 inches. Hardest variation will be the 18 inches, the deepest portion of that exercise. That will be the end of this exercise of alternate leg push off. So after completing the alternate leg push off, So after completing the alternate leg push-off, we're going to be moving on to a drop freeze. Here is going to be, we're going to jump vertically, right? Here we also want to use a plyometric box. I'm using the same equipment, my concrete slab. Um, it's it's a tougher equipment, but it gets the job done. Here we want to get in a comfortable upright position with our feet shoulder width apart, and toes should be near the edge of the box. Um, and you want to step away from the box, and land on the floor with both feet, allowing your feet to quickly absorb the impact upon landing. You don't want to stagger. It's a drop freeze, so you want to freeze after hitting the floor and not move too quickly after. You want to absorb that impact, right? And the intensity of this will be also increasing the height of the box of which you drop off from. This initial one is, we're starting off at 18 inches or 12 inches, and we'll move up to 18 inches and then finally 24 inches. Here, this is 18 inches, same movement, absorbing that impact, getting back on the box and repeating that same movement. This is drop freeze, and I'll So the final variation of this will be a 24-inch step off from the box, but since I don't have a stable surface to jump off from, uh, the way I try to emulate a 24-inch drop is by jumping first till I hit about 24 inches and then trying to do the drop freeze technique. A couple times I will fail at this, but there are some movements I have that are successful. This is definitely the hardest variation of this, especially if you're jumping and then trying to drop freeze. I'm just losing my balance, but I do get a few successful landings here. Let's find one right there, and I hope I should stay a little bit longer and really freeze at the end of the movement. But yeah, and also have my feet shoulder width apart. They are more narrowly positioned. But that'll conclude the lower body plyometric training. Um, yes. So here we're moving on to closed agility drills with cones. This will be another exercise modality. We're doing this double leg zigzag hop. The like the wooden structures I have here are to emulate cones. Cones would by far be a better equipment for this. I didn't have any possession of cones that I could obtain, but uh, it's the same movement and same technique. So we're doing double leg zigzag hop. The first variation will be 6 cones 18 inches apart in zigzag pattern. Second variation of this will be cones in a straight line and hop over one hurdle at a time. That'll be an easier variation than the zigzag pattern. And the last variation, the toughest variation, will be performing hops with one leg only. Here, double leg zigzag hop. Uh, you can place about 10 hurdles 18 to 24 inches apart in zigzag pattern. You want to get comfortable in the start of the position with your feet upright, with your stance upright and your feet shoulder width apart. And your elbows should be flexed about 90 degrees and held at the sides of the body. Um, my hands are kind of all over the place, but it should be standard. Um, and you're jumping outside of the first of the hurdle, but here we're going to be moving on to single hops, um, kind of maintaining that same arm position throughout the jumping movements. Um, but I should emphasize that the downward movement of these phases should immediately upon landing, you should jump to the second hurdle. That will be the plyometric element to the exercises so that you're absorbing that impact and dispelling it by jumping again. You shouldn't stop through the jumps, kind of like what I am doing here. I am jump like stopping, but here towards the last couple hurdles, I try not to. This is the fault of the equipment. I didn't want to step on them, so I was a little too afraid to continuously hop and do the exercise correctly. Um, that is the fault of myself there. But um, this is the less intense of this variation is doing straight line hops over one hurdle at a time. And like I said, the hop should be continuous. You shouldn't stop when doing this exercise. Um, yeah. And the last variation of this exercise, the toughest variation, gonna be doing the same hops. I opted to do it on the single leg, I mean on the parallel lined hurdles, because there was no way I was gonna be able to do it zigzag. That would just been too tough of a variation for me. But here you see how it's continuous. It should be a continuous movement um, of doing these hurdles to get that plyometric element into it. It's single hops over. That was the last toughest variation. Here we're doing the 4 hurdle drill, and with the 4 hurdle drill, um, the first variation is going to be standard cones placed parallel 1 to 2 feet apart. Second variation is going to be cones placed 2 to 3 feet apart. And the last variation, the easiest variation for the 4 hurdle drill, will be reduced total number of cones. So instead of 4, I'm opted just to do 2. But with the 4 hurdle drill, that direction of the jump is going to be lateral and vertical. And you're gonna do 2 pairs of hurdles for uh, but each hurdle is in the pair separated by 12 inches. Starting position will be getting in a comfortable upright stance on the right foot, and the line of the 4 hurdles will be to the athlete's left. So I'm gonna jump, as you'll see. There's also gonna be a double arm action, but I'm gonna do a single jump for the first 2 hurdles, and then an explosive last jump and land on the foot that I'm not jumping initially off of. So if I start with my left foot, as I will now, so I'm gonna start with my left foot, initial, and then land on the right foot. And you should get right back into the movement by doing left, left, right, and then right, right, left. There shouldn't be this much of a pause in between each set. But yeah, this is the 4 hurdle drill, and that is the toughest variation for that. So we're gonna move on to the next exercise modality, trunk body plyometrics. And with trunk body plyometrics, we're gonna be doing for the first exercise, plank jumps. And the first variation will be standard plank jumps, as I'm showing here. You really want to maintain, as with the regular plank, your hands shoulder width apart, and your feet should be parallel to the floor. Your buttocks shouldn't be as high, but we're performing the standard plank jumps by really trying to emphasize having the knees come forward to the chest as much as possible, And then as that happens, you're gonna try to explosively extend the hamstrings once again, and get to that initial standard plank position. Um, it's an explosive movement, the standard plank jumps, for the first variation, and I would consider the easiest variation. After that, we're going to be going to alternate leg plank jumps. So that'll be adding the initial standard plank jump, and then also you're gonna introduce uh, an alternate movement by moving your legs horizontally, as shown here. And it's just the same movement as the standard plank jumps, but here we're having the legs come out diagonally. This is definitely a tougher variation, but same movements, explosive, and that's alternate leg plank jump. The final variation of the for trunk body plyometrics plank jumps will be dynamic plank jumps. Um, and so we're doing the same plank jump, explosively putting the knee towards the chest and then jumping up. You do want to have your hands kind of reach up towards the sky here in this movement, but I don't capture that entirely. This is definitely that was definitely the toughest movement. Here we're going to go on to exercise number 2 for trunk body plyometrics, and these are wood choppers. The first variation will be, or high to low wood choppers. The first variation will be shoulder to hip. So it's going to be an explosive movement towards the hip. You want to have your trunk facing forward, but really trying to rotate your pelvic and your cervical spine towards the left hip if you're starting on the right, or having both your arms extended towards the right, and explosively rotating your torso to the hip. This is great for targeting the core aspect of the body. First variation is shoulder to hip. Second variation will be shoulder to knee, so an even more exaggerated internal or more exaggerated body rotation. But you want to make sure that your face is pointing straight. You don't want your neck to be doing the movement for you. You want it to come from the trunk of the body and really rotate there. So that will be the shoulder to knee extended variation. Your knee should be pointing also as well forward. And most of the pivoting may come from the feet, although I don't show it here, but really trying to engage the core by flexing the pelvic. And yeah, that's shoulder to knee. Last variation will be a horizontal wood chop, and this will do the same. It's not high to low wood choppers, it's horizontal. Same movement, but really trying to explode and tighten that core. Um, I will conclude the trunk body plyometrics. So the final exercise modality will be upper body plyometrics. I'm going to be doing the plyometric push-ups, and to increase variation or to increase intensity for this will be to increase the size of what hopefully would be in the medicine ball. Um, Here for plyometric push-ups, this initial instrument will emulate the 5 pound ball. Then I will have two other instruments that will emulate larger balls, larger, heavier medicine balls. But we're doing the same movement here. So for plyometric push-up, you want to have your knee, your elbows fully extended over the bar, and as you're going down, you want to quickly remove your hands from the object and allow your chest to touch the object, and the upward phase will be explosively pushing up and on back onto the instrument. That are the plyometric push-ups in a nutshell. But you want to have a rigid body throughout this whole movement. Don't let your buttocks sag too low or too high. But same movement. I do pause towards the end of the downward movement, really absorb that tension, and then push back up for the plyometric element of the exercise. Here we're moving on to medicine ball slams, and this is also an upper body plyometric. Here we're going to be doing increasing intensity through also increasing the weight. So the easiest variation will be the 5 pound, which is the initial um, slam, 10 pound later on, and then 15 pound. Uh, so yeah, this will be mainly targeting your latissimus dorsi. Um, some triceps brachii are involved in this movement um, through initially the downward phase, not so much the picking up phase, but yeah. So the cool down segment for plyometric training, we'll start with lunging, and we'll be doing lunging on all sides, diagonal, backward, and forward. We're going to be doing this for 5 minutes, really just trying to uh, cover all the movements that we previously used during the plyometric training period. Lunging for 5 minutes. So after lunging, we'll be moving on to overhead or arm straight above head, also called pillar. There's going to be a slight lean back at the end of this movement. Um, and we're going to have the hands with the arms in front of the torso, fingers interlocked with the palms facing out. Slowly straighten the arms above the head with the palms up. Continue to reach upward with the hands and arms, and like I said, we're slowly reaching backward. I'm doing 5 reps, about a minute long at each of the stands of each of these movements. We're going to be doing, well, I did 10-second pauses to really get that stretch at the end phase of each one of these movements, mainly targeting the latissimus dorsi. And after that, we're going to be going on to the semi-leg straddle. Semi-leg straddle is going to affect the erector spinae, and you want to sit with your knees flexed 30 to 50 degrees, and you want to let the legs totally relax. You're going to point the knees outward, and the size of the knees, they could touch the floor, they may not touch the floor. Mine do not touch the floor. And you want to lean forward the waist and reach forward with extended arms. Um, uh, by bending the knees and relaxing the legs, you do decrease hamstring involvement, and which will increase lower back stretch. So having a relaxed leg position is key to this movement. Um, and then after we're doing, also I'm doing this for a minute, 10-second holds, or I try to do 10-second holds for the semi-leg straddle. After the semi-leg straddle, we'll be moving on to side bend with straight arms. So side bend with straight arms, it's kind of like the pillar movement we already did before, but here we're, instead of the backward movement for the latissimus dorsi, it's more going to be horizontal movement, side to side, which will affect the external oblique as well as the latissimus dorsi and the serratus anterior. But same movement, essentially standing with your feet shoulder width apart. Interlace the fingers with the palms away from the torso and facing outward. Reach upward with the straight arms, and you want to keep your arms straight and lean from the waist, and you don't want to bend the knees at all. You can't see, but I didn't bend my knees. After that movement, the side bend with the straight arms, we'll be moving on to the side quadriceps stretch, which will affect the quadriceps and the iliopsoas. So you want to lie on your side with both legs straight, and place the left forearm at a 45-degree angle to the torso. And you want to flex the right, or in my case, yeah, the right leg with the heel of the right foot moving toward the buttocks, and I'm just alternating. My left leg should be straight. It shouldn't be bent, but you want to grasp the front of the ankle with the right hand, or in this scenario, the left hand, and pull toward the buttocks. And the main muscles affected will be the quadriceps, iliopsoas. Um, that will be the side quadriceps stretch. After the side quadriceps stretch, we're going to be doing the sitting toe touch. The sitting toe touch will sit with the upper body nearly vertical and legs straight. You want to lean forward using hip flexion and grasp the toes with each hand. Slightly pull toes toward the upper body and pull the chest toward the legs. And if you can't reach the toes, you can always opt to grab the ankles instead. But the main muscles affected here will be the hamstrings, erector spinae, and gastrocnemius. For all these movements, I'm doing about 5 reps, 10-second holds. Um, and after that, we're going to be moving on to the butterfly. So with the butterfly, we're going to be sitting with the upper body nearly vertical and legs straight. You want to flex both knees, bringing the soles of the feet together and pull the feet toward the body. Place the hands on the feet and elbows on the legs and pull the torso slightly forward as the elbows push down, causing hip abduction. You're going to affect the hip adductors and the sartorius. And that will conclude the plyometric training for this series.